My mom left when I was 7, then showed up 26 years later asking for $70,000. If you'd told me at 20 that I'd someday own a 2-bedroom condo overlooking the Florida coast, I'd have laughed and asked what planet you were on. My name's Eleanor Carter, I'm 33, and I work as a data analyst for a tech company in Tampa that loves words like optimization and scalability. My life is clean, measured, plotted, something I built cell by cell, formula by formula, after years of chaos. I thought I'd buried that chaos long ago. Until one Tuesday night, it knocked on my door. My earliest memories are divided like two sides of an old photograph. On one side, Mom, Linda Parker, laughing too loud at breakfast, her lipstick always leaving red crescents on my orange juice glass. She smelled like jasmine and smoke, and she'd sing while brushing my hair, off-key, but happy. On the other, Dad, John Carter, with his diner apron and the faint scent of grease and coffee. His hands were rough, his eyes tired, but they softened every time he looked at me. Then one morning when I was 7, Mom just didn't come home. Dad told me she was visiting Aunt Ruth, but after a week of silence, he stopped pretending. I still remember the way he sat at the kitchen table, head bowed, the unpaid bills scattered like white flags. He didn't cry, not then. He just folded his arms and said quietly, "It's just us now, kiddo." The years that followed were survival in slow motion. Our town was small enough that gossip traveled faster than mail. People whispered about that poor Carter girl and that wife who ran off. At school, I got used to kids asking if my mom was dead, and I started saying yes just to end the conversation. Dad threw himself into the diner, John's place, a squat building that smelled perpetually of fries and coffee grounds. He'd leave before sunrise, come home after dark, and still help me with homework at the chipped kitchen table, nodding off mid-equation. When I was 12, I started babysitting for the Martins down the street. At 13, I was cleaning houses. By 14, I was delivering newspapers before dawn. I still remember one morning, the sky bruised purple, my fingers numb from cold, when I slipped on the curb and all the papers went flying. I sat there, soaked in dew and newsprint, and just cried. Then I picked them all up again. Because that's what we did. We kept going. Dad used to say, "You're the toughest person I know, Ellie. Tougher than me." I didn't believe him then, but I carried it with me, through high school honors classes, through scholarship essays, through nights I studied by the hum of the fridge because the power bill was overdue again. Every success I had, I imagined handing it back to him like a paycheck for every sacrifice he made. By the time I turned 25, I'd climbed my way into a real career. Dad was semi-retired, his diner sold to a young couple who still kept his name on the sign. I helped him move to a small house near Clearwater, where he gardened and complained about these new coffee machines that don't make real coffee. For the first time, we both exhaled. I thought the story of Linda Parker was over, just a ghost from a bad chapter. But ghosts don't stay buried. It was a Tuesday night, 8:41 p.m. I was home in my apartment, the ocean visible as a dark shimmer beyond my balcony. I'd just finished a client report and was microwaving leftover pad thai when someone knocked, 3 sharp raps, one slower, deliberate. I froze. Nobody I knew knocked like that. Through the peephole, I saw her. Linda. My mother. The woman who'd vanished 26 years ago, smiling like this was a family sitcom reunion. And beside her, a teenage boy, no, not quite a boy. Maybe 18 or 19, with her same gray-blue eyes and an expression that screamed "I don't want to be here." "Hi, Ellie," she said brightly when I opened the door. Her voice was the same, syrupy sweet and poisonous underneath. "It's been so long. This is Ethan, your brother." "Half-brother," he muttered, not looking at me. The world tilted. "What are you doing here?" I asked. "We were just in town," she said, like that explained anything. "Thought we'd finally reconnect." "It's time, don't you think?" I stepped aside, because shock does stupid things to logic, and let them in. Ethan dropped onto my couch, scrolling through his phone. Linda wandered through my living room, her eyes darting over my framed degree, my modest furniture, my life. "You've done so well," she said with a brittle laugh. "A real success story." "What do you want?" I asked, because people like her always want something. She folded her hands in mock humility. "Ethan's starting college next fall. Tuition steep. We thought maybe, since you've been blessed, you could help out. Just 70,000. I actually laughed. "You're joking." "I'm his mother," she said, voice hardening. "And you're his sister." "I'm your abandoned daughter," I shot back. Her smile cracked. "Your father poisoned you against me. You don't even know the truth." "Try me," I said. But before she could answer, Ethan spoke up without looking up from his phone. "Mom, can you ask if she'll also help with a car? I can't show up in a junker." That's when I knew this wasn't a reunion. It was a shakedown. "Get out," I said. Linda blinked. "Eleanor, don't be dramatic. You owe me your life." "No," I said quietly. "You gave me birth. Dad gave me life." I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the floor with my back to the fridge, the pad thai congealing on the counter, replaying everything like a bad pilot episode, the smile, the half-brother, the number, $70,000. At 1:13 a.m., after I'd counted the hairline cracks in my ceiling twice, I called Dad. He picked up on the second ring, voice gravelly. "You okay, kiddo?" "She came," I said. I didn't have to say who. Silence, then a long breath. "What did she want?" "Money. For Ethan's tuition." I paused. 70 grand. Dad laughed once, a sound with no joy in it. "Of course she did." Something in his tone snapped me straight. "What does that mean?" He rustled around for a moment like he was weighing whether to drop a bomb. "Linda didn't just leave, Ellie." He cleared his throat. "The morning I realized she was gone, I also realized our checking account was empty. She took everything. The diner deposit, the house fund, my emergency stash in the coffee can behind the flour, she found it all. I had $87 to my name." The kitchen blurred. "You never told me." "You were 7, he said gently. You needed a father, not a crime scene report." I shut my eyes. I'd always imagined Mom floating away on a whim, a cartoon balloon slipping its string. I hadn't pictured her rifling through drawers, scooping our life into a purse. "She said you poisoned me against her," I whispered. Dad scoffed, softer this time. "Your mother's favorite perfume was I'm the victim. Don't breathe it in." A beat. "Then, did you give her anything?" "Just directions to the door." "Good girl," he said, and the warmth of it made my throat hurt. The next morning, the campaign began. First came the texts, from a new number with a smiley avatar. "Hey sunshine, it's Mom. Got a little heated last night. We're family, right?" Then a string of photos, her with Ethan on a pier, her holding a cupcake with a sparkler, a screenshot of a bursar's page that looked suspiciously like it had been edited in Microsoft Paint. "Any amount helps. Even 20K would be a start. You know your old man always hated me being close to you." When I didn't respond, the call started. Unknowns from 3 different area codes. Voicemails that toggled between sugar and knives. "Eleanor, sweetheart, you're misunderstanding. Your father kept you from me. Do you really want your brother's future on your conscience? You owe me." Ethan texted too, reluctantly polite at first. "Look, I didn't ask for this, but she's right about tuition being steep. I'm studying sports management. It's not a fake degree." An hour later, a less polite follow-up, "At least respond. We're family." And then, after I ignored that too, "Guess money made you forget where you came from." I blocked them. New numbers sprouted like weeds. I told HR I had a dental emergency, closed my laptop, and drove to Dad's. He met me in the driveway with mismatched gardening gloves and a face that tried not to look worried. We made coffee and sat at his small table, the same one we'd solved for X at when the power bill was overdue. "Tell me everything," I said. He did. The early fights about money. The new business opportunity she'd stashed cash for never happened. The day the bank called about unusual withdrawals. The landlord at Aunt Ruth's old place saying Linda had asked about subletting, but only for a month, until Vegas. The last check she wrote, to herself. "I filed a police report," Dad said. "Didn't go anywhere. Marital assets," they said. Messy laws. By the time I wrapped my head around it, she was gone. I stared at my coffee like it might answer for her. "Why come back now?" Dad shrugged. She always liked the smell of a full wallet. On Thursday, the knock started again. Not at my door, at my life. She DM'd my boss on LinkedIn, "Proud mama has a surprise family reunion planned for our girl." And commented under my college's alumni page with a heart emoji and "so proud of my Ellie." She found my neighbor and told him I was keeping a mother from her son. She messaged an ex I haven't spoken to in years, "Crazy how success changes people, huh?" He sent me a screenshot and "Are you okay?" And I finally felt the fear sharpen into anger. I called a lawyer. Not a fancy one, just a sharp woman named Patel who asked short questions and took shorter notes. "Has she threatened you?" "Not outright." "Asked for money?" $70,000. Patel's eyebrows climbed. "Get a log going. Every call, every message, every doorstep stunt. Don't engage. Don't explain. If she shows up again, don't let her in. We'll talk options." "Like what options?" She tapped her pen. "Cease and desist. Harassment complaint. And if it escalates, we discuss a restraining order." The word felt dramatic. So did all of this. But then my phone vibrated on the table between us. New number. New voicemail. Patel nodded at it. "Play it." I did. It started sweet. It ended with, "I will not be ignored, Eleanor. I didn't raise you to be cruel. Your father made you cold. Don't make me come back there and fix it." Patel met my eyes. "That," she said, "is escalation." That night, my doorbell rang again, 3 sharp raps, one slower. I didn't move. The knocking went on for a full minute, then stopped. A flyer slid under the door. It wasn't a flyer. It was a photocopy of my bank's logo with a fake payment plan scrawled over it in hot pink marker, "Family discount. From $70,000 to $50,000 if paid by Friday." At the bottom, a smiley face with lashes. My hand shook. I took a photo. I put it in a folder with everything else. At 11:32 p.m. Ethan texted from yet another number. "She says Dad wouldn't let you see us. Says he stole from her. Truth is probably in the middle. Be decent. Help." I typed and deleted a dozen replies. Finally I sent one sentence, "When you're ready for the real middle, call me without her." He didn't. By Sunday, I'd stopped leaving the balcony doors open. I kept the chain on the front door. I turned my phone face down. On Monday morning, Patel filed the paperwork. On Monday afternoon, Mom posted a photo of my building. Caption, "Nothing keeps a mother away." On Tuesday, the judge signed a temporary restraining order pending a hearing. When the process server told me it was done, that she'd been served, I sat on my kitchen floor again, back against the fridge, and cried, not the panicked kind this time, but the heavy, relieved kind that comes after you hold your breath too long. And then my phone buzzed once more, a final text from a number I didn't recognize. "You think a piece of paper can stop love? See you soon, Ellie." I forwarded it to Patel. I forwarded it to the police contact she'd given me. Then I called Dad, because that's what I've always done when the sky cracks. "It started," I said. "It'll end," he said, steady. This time, it'll end the right way. Outside, the ocean was flat and indifferent. Inside, I opened a new note on my phone and titled it, Evidence. I didn't know it yet, but the next time I'd see my mother's face would be across a courtroom, under lights bright enough to erase the jasmine and leave only the smoke. I used to think courtrooms were for people who'd done something wrong. I didn't realize they were also for daughters trying to prove they deserved peace. The restraining order hearing was set for a Thursday morning. I wore the same navy blazer I'd used for my first job interview, but it felt different this time, like armor. My lawyer, Ms. Patel, met me in the hallway, calm as ever, tablet in hand. She might show, she warned quietly. Just keep your head down. Let me do the talking. I nodded, though my stomach felt like I'd swallowed stones. And then she walked in. Linda Parker. My mother. Dressed in white, as if she were the victim in a funeral no one else attended. Her hair was curled, her lipstick perfect. She looked at me and smiled faintly, like we were two old friends meeting for brunch. Beside her was Ethan, shoulders hunched, eyes darting between us. My breath caught. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, hoodie half-zipped. I wondered if he even wanted to be there. The judge entered, an older woman with a no-nonsense tone. We're here for a temporary restraining order against the respondent, Ms. Parker. Linda stood, clutching a stack of papers. Your Honor, there's been a misunderstanding. I'm her mother. I just wanted to reconnect. My daughter's father turned her against me, and now she's acting out of resentment. Ms. Patel rose slowly, calm and sharp. We have documentation of harassment, unwanted contact, and repeated financial solicitation. Exhibit A, voicemails, messages, and a falsified payment plan left at Ms. Carter's home. She handed the judge a folder. My heart pounded as my own mother's voice filled the room through the tiny speaker. You think a piece of paper can stop love? See you soon, Ellie. The judge's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes hardened. Ms. Parker, that sounds like a threat. Linda's face twitched. That's not what I meant. I just wanted her to remember her family. Family doesn't involve extortion, Patel said evenly. For the first time, Linda looked small. The courtroom silence wrapped around her like cold fog. Ethan stared at the floor, jaw clenched. The judge leaned forward. Ms. Parker, you are hereby ordered to have no contact, direct or indirect, with Ms. Carter for a period of 2 years. Violation will result in arrest. Do you understand? Linda's eyes flicked toward me. You'll regret this, Eleanor, she said softly, just loud enough for me to hear. I already did, I whispered back. When it was over, Ethan caught my arm outside. You didn't have to do this, he said. She's not well. I know, I said. That's why I had to. He looked like he wanted to say something else, but instead he just shook his head and walked away. I watched him disappear down the hall until he turned the corner, and then I finally exhaled. For the next few weeks, silence became my luxury. No calls. No knocks. No texts from strange numbers. The quiet felt strange at first, like walking into a house where the music had just stopped, but eventually it settled around me, soft and safe. Then, one morning, I got a letter from Patel, order confirmed. Case closed. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, stood on my balcony, and watched the ocean turn gold in the sunset. I should have felt victorious, but part of me still expected another knock, another message, another ghost. But it never came. Linda Parker vanished again, only this time, she didn't take my father's money or my childhood. She took herself, and I finally let her go. For the first time, I could breathe without waiting for the next crash. And somewhere between the crash of waves and the hum of the city, I realized something simple and true. I didn't lose a mother. I finally stopped chasing one. The silence after Linda disappeared felt heavier than her presence ever had. For weeks, I woke up expecting chaos, the next text, the next email, the next guilt trip disguised as love. But it never came. Her absence wasn't peaceful at first. It was unnerving, like stepping off a boat and realizing the ground still moves beneath you. Dad noticed it too. "You're quiet lately," he said one Sunday morning over pancakes. "I think I forgot how to relax," I admitted. He gave me that small, proud smile I'd grown up chasing. "You've been in fight mode too long, kiddo. Time to learn to live, not just defend." But it wasn't that easy. Every time I tried to unwind, something inside me whispered, what if she comes back? What if the calm was just a pause before another storm? I'd lie awake replaying every voicemail, every word she'd said, trying to figure out when the mother I remembered had vanished into the woman who treated love like a business transaction. Eventually, I realized I couldn't outthink the damage. I needed help untangling it. That's how I met Dr. Quinn. Her office smelled faintly of cedar and coffee, the kind of warmth that didn't try too hard. The first time I sat on her couch, I kept my bag clutched tight in my lap, as if Linda might burst through the door demanding I pay for the hour. "So," Dr. Quinn said gently, "tell me about your mother." That single sentence hit like a stone dropped into deep water. I told her everything, how Linda used to sing while brushing my hair, how she'd vanish for days when I was little, how she came back after 26 years acting like she'd never left. How she looked me in the eye and asked for $70,000 like it was a favor between friends. Dr. Quinn didn't interrupt. She just listened, nodding softly. When I finished, she said, "You talk about her like a person you've been trying to forgive your whole life." I thought about that. Maybe I kept waiting for her to apologize. Or to change. Or to need me for something other than money. "That waiting," she said, "is grief. Not for who she is, but for who she never became." Something cracked open in me then, quiet and painful. Week after week, I went back. We talked about control, about boundaries, about the way guilt can disguise itself as love. I learned that not every story about forgiveness ends with reconciliation. Sometimes it ends with freedom. I started sleeping through the night again. I stopped checking my phone before bed. I took morning walks on the beach without looking over my shoulder. I even joined a pottery class, something I'd always wanted to do but never felt stable enough for. Dad came to visit one Saturday. He stood in my kitchen, hands in his pockets, looking around like he was seeing me for the first time. "Place looks different," he said. "I think it's me," I told him. "I feel different." He smiled. "That's good. You deserve that." For the first time in years, I believed him. I still dream about her sometimes. In those dreams, she's younger, laughing, lipstick bright, the way I remembered before everything broke. But when I wake, I don't feel that ache anymore. Just distance. Just clarity. Dr. Quinn says healing isn't forgetting, it's learning how to stop reopening the wound. And maybe she's right. Because when I look around my apartment now, the sunlight spilling through the windows, the sea glinting outside, I don't see a place built out of fear. I see a life that survived her. And it's finally mine. By the time spring rolled around, the world felt new again. I'd started running on the beach before work, joined a book club full of people who didn't ask about my family, and even hosted dinner for Dad without burning the pasta. It was ordinary, blissfully so, the kind of life I'd always imagined but never believed I could have. Then, one afternoon, a letter arrived. It was thin, creased, postmarked from Arizona. The handwriting on the front made my stomach twist. It was Linda's. I stood at my counter for nearly 10 minutes, just staring at it, my heart thudding like I was 16 again and hiding overdue bills. I finally called Dr. Quinn. "Do I open it?" I asked. "Only if you can do it without expecting it to change anything," she said. "Sometimes closure isn't found, it's chosen." So I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, written in her neat, looping cursive. "Eleanor. I didn't steal from your father. He owed me. I gave him years, and he gave me nothing. You were always his favorite. I just wanted you to know I tried. Maybe someday you'll understand that love doesn't always look kind. Take care of Ethan. He's not like you. He still believes in people. Mom. No apology. No regret. Just justification, like always. I folded the letter back up, slid it into a folder with all the others, and tucked it away in my desk. For the first time, I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just felt done. A week later, Ethan texted me. Hey. Mom's gone. Left her apartment without a word. Just her car and some bills. I thought you should know. I read it 3 times before replying, I'm sorry. Are you okay? He sent back, yeah. Guess I knew this was coming. She burned every bridge she ever crossed. I just hoped she'd change. I hesitated before typing, I used to hope that too. Then, after a moment, if you ever want to talk, I'm here. No money. No lies. Just talk. He didn't respond right away, but 2 days later he sent a photo, him sitting on a beach somewhere, grinning shyly at the camera. No caption, just a heart emoji. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was something better, honesty. That night, I lit a candle and opened my balcony doors. The air was soft, full of salt and evening warmth. I thought about how much time I'd spent chasing the version of my mother I wanted her to be, how many years I'd lost trying to understand someone who had never wanted to be understood. Now, I was done understanding. I was living. Dr. Quinn once told me healing isn't the absence of pain, it's learning to carry it without letting it decide where you go. And she was right. The ache would always exist, a small scar somewhere deep inside me. But it no longer owned me. When I went to bed that night, I slept through until morning. No dreams. No ghosts. Just peace. And for the first time in my life, I didn't wake up waiting for her to come back. I woke up ready for the rest of my life. The morning after Ethan's message, I woke up before sunrise. The sky was still dark, but the horizon was bleeding faint orange. I brewed coffee, stood barefoot on the balcony, and listened to the gulls screaming like they knew some secret about freedom. The city was quiet, except for the waves. It had been 3 months since the restraining order. 2 since the last message. 1 since I'd stopped expecting her name to appear on my phone. I still saw traces of her everywhere, the faint smell of jasmine when someone walked by me at the grocery store, the flash of red lipstick on a billboard, the way I caught myself humming off-key while brushing my hair. Ghost habits. Dr. Quinn said that trauma doesn't always announce itself with tears, sometimes it just lingers, like a low hum in the background of an otherwise quiet song. The trick, she'd said, is to notice the hum and choose to turn it down. So I started doing that. I filled my days with things that had nothing to do with her. I signed up for pottery, learned to throw a bowl without it collapsing in on itself, a metaphor, maybe. I volunteered at an animal shelter on weekends. I went to trivia nights with my coworkers, laughing until my cheeks hurt. Every small joy felt like an act of rebellion. Every moment of peace felt like a victory. But one thing still haunted me, the box. It sat on the top shelf of my closet, a plain cardboard box full of the fragments I'd kept over the years. An old photo of Linda holding me as a baby, one of her scarves that still smelled faintly of her perfume, a birthday card she'd mailed when I was 10, before she vanished. And now, the letter from Arizona. I'd kept it all like evidence. Proof that she had existed. Proof that I hadn't made her up. That Sunday, after another long talk with Dr. Quinn, I finally decided what to do. I drove to Clearwater, to Dad's house. He was in the garden, hands deep in the soil, humming to himself. When he saw the box in my arms, he didn't ask questions. He just nodded, like he knew. We sat in the backyard, the late afternoon light washing everything gold. I opened the box and began pulling things out one by one. This was her scarf, I said. She wore it to every school play. I used to think it was magic. Dad smiled sadly. She did love the attention. Then the photo, Linda, smiling wide, me on her hip. I stared at it for a long time. The little girl I used to be looked so safe, so unaware. I almost envied her. "Do you want to keep it?" Dad asked. "No," I said quietly. "I want to remember how she made me strong, not how she made me small." We built a small fire in the metal pit behind the house. I dropped the scarf in first, watching the fabric curl and darken. Then the photos, one after another, edges blackening until they folded into ash. When I held up the Arizona letter, I hesitated. "Go on," Dad said softly. "You don't owe her anything." The flames licked at the edges, and the ink melted into smoke. I watched it disappear, and for the first time I didn't feel anger. Just release. When it was done, Dad put an arm around my shoulders. "You did good, kiddo." "I think I finally believe that," I said. That night, back in my condo, I felt lighter, like I'd set something down I'd been carrying my whole life. I opened the windows, let the salt air in, and sat on the floor, knees pulled to my chest, just breathing. For so long, I thought healing meant fixing something broken. But it's not. It's realizing you don't have to keep bleeding just because someone else handed you the knife. I don't know where Linda went. Maybe she's living under a new name, maybe she's still chasing money, maybe she's finally facing herself. But wherever she is, she's not in my head anymore. She's just a story I survived. Ethan still texts me sometimes, small things. A photo of his dog. A joke about college finals. Once, a picture of him at the diner Dad sold years ago, smiling under the John's Place sign. We're building something real, slowly, quietly, without her shadow hanging over it. Sometimes, when I'm out walking on the beach at sunset, I imagine the ocean carrying her name farther and farther away. I whisper goodbye, not out of love, not out of hate, but out of mercy for the girl I used to be. And as the tide washes over my feet, I realize that this is what freedom feels like. It's not fireworks. It's not revenge. It's peace. It's knowing that I don't have to open the door anymore. Because the only person I'm waiting for now is me. A year passed before I realized how far I'd come. It happened on an ordinary Saturday, sunlight pouring through the blinds, the smell of coffee filling the kitchen. I was packing for a weekend trip, something I never used to do because what if something happens? But nothing did. Nothing ever did anymore. Ethan was graduating, and Dad and I were driving up to see him. The invitation had come in the mail a month earlier, hand-addressed, no drama attached. "Just hope you'll come." I'd smiled for hours after opening it. The drive north was quiet and comfortable. Dad hummed along to old Springsteen songs, the windows cracked to let in the warm wind. We stopped halfway for gas and donuts, and I caught him looking at me in that proud, gentle way again. "You know," he said, "you've got your life figured out more than most people I know." I laughed. "Took me 33 years and a lifetime's worth of therapy." He grinned. "Worth it." When we arrived, the campus was buzzing with the usual chaos of graduation, parents waving cameras, students hugging in their caps and gowns. Then I spotted him. Ethan, taller now, his hair trimmed short, his posture straighter. He looked older, steadier. He saw us and broke into a real, unguarded smile. For a moment, I saw the boy who'd once sat on my couch scrolling through his phone, unsure of everything. Now he walked toward us with confidence, his arms open. "Hey, Ellie," he said. "Hey, Mr. Carter." Dad clapped him on the shoulder, eyes misty. "Just Dad is fine, son." Ethan laughed awkwardly, then looked at me. "I didn't think you'd come." "Of course I did," I said. "You invited me." We found seats in the bleachers. The sun was hot, the speeches long, but I didn't mind. Watching Ethan walk across the stage, hearing his name called, something loosened in my chest. He wasn't just her son anymore. He was his own person. We both were. After the ceremony, we went for lunch at a diner just off campus. It smelled faintly like the one Dad used to own, coffee, pancakes, grease. Ethan slid into the booth across from us, flipping the menu. "So," he said, "you two still get along this well even after all that?" Dad chuckled. "After all what?" "Everything," Ethan said. Then, quieter, Mom. The air tensed for a moment. I took a breath. "She doesn't define us anymore," I said. "Not you, not me, not him. We get to decide who we are." He nodded slowly, eyes shining just a bit. "I think I'm finally getting that." The conversation drifted to lighter things after that: jobs, plans, the weather. Ordinary things. Beautifully ordinary. When the check came, I reached for it, but Dad beat me to it. "Let me," he said. "Old habits." Ethan grinned. "Guess it's a Carter tradition." We left the diner together, the afternoon light bouncing off the car windows. For once, there was no sense of something unfinished, no echo of the past tugging at my heels. Just us, three people who'd chosen to stay, to rebuild, to keep going. On the drive home, the ocean shimmered on the horizon, endless and blue. I rolled down the window, letting the wind whip through my hair. Dad dozed in the passenger seat, his hand still resting on the folder that held Ethan's graduation program. Somewhere between miles, I started to cry, not from sadness, but from the strange, full feeling of being free. I thought about Mom. About how every story she told was a half-truth wrapped in perfume. About how she used to say, "One day, you'll thank me." And maybe, in a strange way, I did. Because surviving her had made me into someone strong, steady, whole. When I pulled into my driveway that night, the moonlight spilled over the balcony. I stood there for a while, listening to the ocean. No ghosts. No knocking. Just peace. Inside, my phone buzzed, "Ethan again. Thanks for coming today. Feels like the start of something new." I typed back, "It is." Then I put my phone down, turned off the lights, and let the quiet wrap around me like a promise. For the first time, I wasn't a daughter running from her mother's shadow. I was just Eleanor Carter, whole, healed, and finally home.